Today we are breaking down and upgrading the final Precon from Duskmourn, which is the Death Toll Precon. It's helmed by Winter Cynical Opportunist and it's a Golgari self-mill. So yeah, let's see where this thing wants to go. Starting things off with Winter Cynical Opportunist, we have 2 green and a black legendary creature human warlock. They are a 2/5, they have Death Touch, and whenever they attack, they're going to mill 3 cards. Milling is when you take the top card of your library and you put it into your graveyard, so you'll mill the top 3 cards in this instance. Delirium, so Delirium is when you have 4 or more card types in your graveyard, such as instant, sorcery, creature, land. Yep. So at the beginning of your end step, you may exile any number of cards from your graveyard with 4 or more card types among them. If you do, put a permanent card from among them onto the battlefield with a finality counter on it. Finality counter is a counter that says whenever this permanent is destroyed or goes to graveyard, it goes to exile instead. Yeah, so it's final, it can't keep coming in and out of the graveyard. So Winter actually seems quite cool, and it's an interesting take on the usual Golgari reanimation type stuff. It triggers on your end step, so if you have Delirium as you play your commander and you get to your end step, it triggers straight away, which is great. Obviously, when they attack, they put stuff into your graveyard, which you can then reanimate with their ability. So it enables himself, can trigger straight away. So yeah, I think this is going to be pretty fun. It's interesting that the mill is on an attack, so it encourages you to interact with your opponent on the combat step. One of the things about my Merrin deck is the fact I never need to go to the combat step. So yeah, I think this commander is quite interesting. So yeah, let's take a look at all the cards in the deck, see what direction that's pointing is, and start upgrading. Looking at this deck, we've got 26 creatures, 9 sorceries, 8 artifacts, 8 enchantments, 38 lands, 6 instants, and 4 planeswalkers. So we have a nice spread of permanents, which is obviously what this deck cares about. We want to mill ourselves, we want to get Delirium online, to then be able to reanimate the best thing at that time that is best for us to give us the best advantage to winning. So we have a bunch of like self-mill based stuff. We have a lot of creatures that are dual creature types. So we can have like, say, a Haywire Might, which is an artifact creature, you know, the Noxious Gearhulk, stuff like that. There's a Color Scholar in here, look, that's an enchantment creature. So that counts as 2 of the types for Delirium on 1 card. And obviously that also applies for when Winter is bringing stuff, exiling things. So if you can exile an enchantment creature and an artifact land, you can exile 2 cards and get whichever one you want back because you hit 4 types, 4 permanent types. There are a few expensive removal spells and a few expensive creatures. There's a bit of an insect sub-theme as well in here. So yeah, it's quite an interesting deck construction. It's an interesting take on the whole Golgari reanimation stuff, but there's not that much reanimate. There is a reanimate in it, but not major reanimation stuff. Obviously, we've got Whip of Erebus as well. I like the Whisper Cloak as well. So it clearly is trying to say to you, you need to attack with your commander to get the mill effect and enable the deck that way rather than just dredging everything into your graveyard. So I think that's where we're going to take it. We're going to look to make Winter unblockable maybe, or give him some type of protection so we can get through, so we don't lose him in the mid to late game and then have to spend all of our mana to cast him again, you know, setting ourselves back, time walking ourselves. Then we want to make sure we've got as many permanent types on single cards as possible, while also still keeping a good balance of permanents between our cards, really, because we want to make sure we can hit Delirium consistently when we're self-milling, and yeah, any permanent that we want can bring back. Just remember as well that this reanimation from Winter is any permanent, so you can bring back lands to help you ramp or whatever's best for the situation that you're in at the time. So yeah, unblockable commander, maybe a bit more reanimation stuff and multiple card types to hit that Delirium as quick as possible. Sounds good. Let's do it. I have removed 15 cards from the deck. First on the chopping block was Planeswalkers. Obnixilis got cut straight away. The other 3 Planeswalkers have a self-mill ability or a way of getting things into the graveyard. Obnixilis doesn't, so off he went. Norwood Dryad and Deathcap Cultivator, just not impactful enough in the deck to keep a slot. Same with Burnished Heart and Sun Simulacrum, however, they are 2 permanent types, that's a little bit sad. Renmore is just a token-based lieutenant, the backup commander type thing, so we're not going down that route, so that's gone. Titania lets you just play forest from your graveyard, not any land, so that's too specific, too narrow, we don't want that. And then Moldgraph is just, it's a big thing, but if this sits in your hand, it's no good. And we don't have loads and loads of ways of sacrificing stuff. It's mostly just self-mill, so we can't guarantee we're going to trigger that ability that when it dies, it's going to return two creature cards at random. And obviously, if we do return things at random, that could turn off our delirium. So we want to be a bit more specific about our targets. Sorcery spells, Night Whisperer, it's draw two, you lose two. There is the new card from Bloomborough Diacite, which is one more mana than this, but allows you to surveil two, so that actually would enable in this deck better. So we've cut Night Whisperer because we don't really need the card draw. There's better versions out there, and we are using our graveyard as a kind of like a second hand, so we don't need to have more cards in our hand. We just need to have a good graveyard. Convert Slime is an expensive piece of removal. It's nice if you have Delirium to make it better, but yeah, it's just two if, buts, and maybes to get the best out of it, so that's gone. Inscription of Abundance, yeah, just doesn't do enough for what we need for the deck. Same with Into the Pit, it's a sacrifice outlet, I guess, to play the top card of your library, but there's better ways of doing that. Binding of the Gods, it's a slow piece of removal, I guess. Deathbridge Chant, this one is quite nice. When it enters, you're going to mill 10 cards, and then obviously at the beginning of your upkeep you can choose a card at random, but it has to be a creature card for it to come back, otherwise it goes into your hand, so then you have to physically cast it again. We are trying to have a good balance between other permanents, not just creatures, so in a more creature heavy strategy I think this would be better. And then same with the Demonic Covenant, it's going to let us draw cards and lose life whenever a demon attacks, but we don't have loads of demons. It does make demons, but it's like 6 mana, then you've got to get past 3 turns before you can even like get one demon attack off. So yeah, not the best. So that's why I cut those 15 cards. So let's jump into what I've added. Here are the 15 cards that I have added to the deck. First off, we've got a new instant with Crop Rotation. I've added this one in because basically it sacrifices a land and it's an instant spell, so it instantly puts 2 permanent types in your graveyard straight away, so you're halfway to Delirium just by casting Crop Rotation. Obviously it ramps you as well, which is just great. And then I think as well, while I'm talking about lands, Evolving Wild, Terramorphic Expanse, Myriad Landscape, all stuff like that are going to be fantastic includes, because obviously you play them as a land on the battlefield, you tap, sacrifice them, go find what you want. It then puts a land in your graveyard, which you can then use to feed Winter's ability. Obviously fetch lands, if you want to take the deck to that type of level, is also a good choice. Trailblazer's Boots, creature has non-basic land walk, so yeah, most people are playing non-basics. Prowler's Helm, creatures can't be blocked except by walls. Essentially these are ways of giving Winter unblockable, and then in the late game we can move them onto our big flying things to make sure they can get through, you know, and do the damage they need to do so we can win as the game. Some more reanimation spells with Persist and Victimize. There's loads of reanimation spells you can pick from, and depending on how you want to play this deck and how you want to build it, that you can choose from so many more. First creature I have added is Fauna Shaman. This allows us to put a creature card from our hand into our graveyard, so if we need to put an artifact into our graveyard, we can do an artifact creature, or an enchantment, we can put an enchantment creature, allowing us to enable Delirium, but also allowing us to feed Winter's ability, which is exactly what we want. Leech Gauntlet helps us get lifelink to stabilize our life total in the mid to the late game. Obviously it's an artifact creature, so it's 2 permanent types, love it. Shigeki is just auto included in this deck. It does everything the deck wants to do. It's going to bounce itself to put stuff in the graveyard, but obviously if it bounces itself, it gets around the finality counters. So it's never going to permanently die and go to exile. And then obviously you can reanimate with it as well. So absolutely fantastic. Timoret, enchantment creature. Love it. It's going to get bigger the more black stuff we play. And then you can exile cards from graveyards to gain life. So yeah, ticks a lot of boxes. Appendage Amalgam. Flash, whenever it attacks, you're going to surveil 1. It's an enchantment creature. Feeds our graveyard. You know, feeds the Delirium. Run-up Nap Excavator allows us to play lands from our graveyard. So like I mentioned about Evolving Wilds, Terramorphic Expanse, Myriad Landscape, etc. We can then get those back to help ourselves ramp a lot easier. 6 is essentially like a second commander, really, I guess. When it attacks, you're going to mill 3, and then you can discard a land because it gives you cards in graveyard retrace. So you can discard a land to then recast the card from your graveyard. Yeah, this is just another way of making sure our deck can still do the thing we're building it to do, even if our commander is locked out of the game, you know, imprisoned in the moved, stuff like that. Then we've got Arasta, the Endless Web. This starts to build upon the creature insect and spider-like sub-theme that's within the deck. So yeah, whenever an opponent casts in some sorcery spells, you're going to create a spider, which is a 1/2 green spider token with reach. Yeah, helps us create a bit of a board state so we don't die so easily. Mine Rack Harpy, it's going to mill 3 cards on each time we go to combat, and it mills every player as well, so it's disruption for our opponent's decks, but also feeds our deck, which is absolutely fantastic. Also flyer, so we can get around any type of low-level creatures that are annoying us. And then Swarm Weaver, once again, this builds into the insect sub-theme that's within the deck. So it's multiple card types, it's an artifact creature, it has delirium, which is obviously what we're going to be trying to do, and it makes insects and buffs our insects. So yeah, absolutely fantastic. You know, hits our main theme and our sub-theme. Taking a quick look at the mana curve, we've got this lovely curve here. So we're going to be playing plenty of stuff and then not getting flooded out with too many big things. There is a little bit of spike on the 7 mana slot, and that's because these are our reanimation targets that we want to obviously hopefully mill and then cast those for free with Winter's ability. Regarding the lands, you might want to take a few of the swamps out to put into the forest section just to balance out these colours a little bit more, make sure we've got what we need to hit all the green pips. Right, well, overview. I do like this deck. It's not big, it's not flashy, and I think that means it's not going to be very popular. I think there's a lot of people out there that like the big and flashy things, like they'll want to play the Miracle deck, they'll probably want to play the Rakdos deck, you know. And I think this one will go under the radar a little bit. But yeah, I think this is a nice take on the Golgari reanimation stuff using self-mill, and self-mill something we normally see in Tamir. So yeah, I think this is cool. It's nice reanimation stuff. Obviously, if you're wanting a really strong reanimation deck, then obviously there is other commanders to pick. But that's the same with all the precons. If you want the strongest version of it, don't buy the precons. You go buy the commanders and build the deck yourself. So yeah, obviously with Golgari reanimation, there is loads of ways you can build this. If you wanted to start going down combo lines, you've got your Altar of Dementia to like feed your own graveyard, and you can use like is it like the Gravecaller zombie, so cast it, recast it in and out using Pitiless Plunder and stuff like that. And there's loads of little like infinite loop combo lines. Just remember, obviously, if you exile stuff with Winter's ability and reanimate with that, you'll lose that infinite loop. So you've got Yawgmoth and Mikaeus and all that type of stuff that you can do. I'll drop my Merrin deck list down below in the description as well, so you guys can see that, which has a few of those loops and things in there. But yeah, solid Golgari list. I like the fact that we've added a few bits of equipment, and obviously with Winter, even if you mill them, you can get those permanent back. So yeah, it's good stuff. I like this deck. Like I said, not flashy, but just cool. All that's left to say is thank you. So thank you guys for watching. And if you have made it this far in the video, please consider hitting that subscribe button down below, dropping a comment, a like, etc. Feeding the algorithm gods, so to speak. That would be muchly appreciated. And if you have any questions about the deck or any of the other precons that I've done full builds on, then yeah, let me know. And yeah, I'll see you all in the next video. So goodbye for now.